Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and we have a very special show today. We are going to have former Notre Dame quarterback and current Philadelphia Eagle on the show, Ian Book. We're going to talk to him about being a Notre Dame football player, being the Notre Dame quarterback, what it was like to prepare on a Super Bowl winning team. We're going to delve into all things, college football, his time at Notre Dame, what it's like to be a Notre Dame student, what's it time to be a professional athlete, going through COVID and all those things. So we're very excited to bring you that. But first, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, ESQ Clothing. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe this spring, ESQ has created the world's first bamboo dress shirt. Crafted from high-quality bamboo fabric, it's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, but also feels cooler, has stretch, is odor and wrinkle resistant, and it's even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo shirt on every photo of Marcus Freeman, and it's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading out for a night out. For ISD listeners only, you can get 23% off for spring football from now until the Blue Gold game using code ISD Spring. That's ISD Spring to get an exclusive 23% off the best shirt you'll ever wear. Check out esqclothing.com and upgrade your shirt game. All right, now let's get to Ian Book. All right, we are back with Ian Book, former Notre Dame quarterback and current Philadelphia Eagle, Super Bowl runner-up Philadelphia Eagle, Ian Book. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. It's going to be awesome.
So, Super Bowl runner-up, all right? Is it too soon? Does it sting? How do you feel about that right now?
It's definitely a bummer. But what a crazy game. I feel like that's got to be one of the better Super Bowl games, just back and forth. But
yeah,
again, at the end of the day, just an awesome opportunity. I keep telling myself whoever got the ball last in that game was probably going to win that game. So it is what it is. Would love to get back there to that stage. That's what we dream of when we're kids. It's the biggest stage. It was awesome. We did eight days in Arizona. But definitely hungry for next year, trying to get back.
Yeah, it's sometimes you get in that game and it's lopsided and you feel like, whoever the winner was, like the Super Bowl was actually won in the conference title game because maybe like the AFC is stronger, the NFC is stronger. That wasn't the case. It was a really good game. You guys were really in control there for, it looked like the entire first half. And unfortunately, Jalen had the fumble. It's just kind of a fluke play, right? And those things can happen in football. Unfortunately, it happened in the Super Bowl, but you guys had a very special season, right? And I think, right away, it was like the Eagles, they're good. They're going to be really good. And you got picked up by them. I think it was August 31st of last year, formerly of the Saints. And then you got picked up by the Eagles. And obviously they're in the middle of camp. So you had to catch up. And I think you mentioned in another interview along the way that you had to kind of forget some of the things that you had done with the Saints because you're changing offenses and stuff like that. But how soon did you know, like, man, this Eagles team, they've really got something you guys had a special squad that year?
Honestly, I would say like the first week I got there, I could just the way everything was ran in Philly is pretty special. And then I was looking around, kind of watching the offensive line when I first, was watching from afar. And that's kind of when I was like, this offensive line. It was the first protection meeting I was in with them. I'm like, this is different. These guys are special just across the board. Just the brotherhood that they have and the chemistry that they have playing together for so long. It was such a big leader like Kelsey, who's been in Philly for a long time and just been one of the greats. And then I was watching Jalen, like he was killing it. And just the way that things were flowing, the receivers we had, like you can go through our depth chart and you have, I imagine, and there's no weak spots. It was a really special team that, I was really fortunate to be a part of. And it's definitely a roster that's going to be hard to beat. It's got to be the best team, hands down I've been on. Just special guys, all bought into one thing. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, let's dive into the quarterback room a little bit. Eclectic group, right? Like Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew was there. I believe he's moved on to where did he get picked up by?
He's with the Colts now.
Right, he got picked up by the Colts, but he was there, and obviously yourself. Tell me about that. It seems like you and Jalen have very similar skill sets, these very similar games. So what were you able to pick up from him just watching him operate? I believe it was he came out a year before you did, so there was just like he had that leg up there as far as the year goes. But I feel like it was an offense also that kind of catered to your skill set, very, very RPO heavy, a lot of zone read and that sort of thing. So tell me about, what you picked up from Jalen and just that quarterback room as a whole.
Yeah, it was an awesome room. I would say with Jalen, it was like very early on, just the confidence that he has and he shows. It's pretty awesome you've seen all his interviews, and he answers everything the same, and
Yeah.
people don't think he smiles, and it's like, is this a show? Is he putting this on for show? And I realized over this year, that's who he is. He wants to be the best quarterback he can be. He's hungry. He wants to win championships, Super Bowls. He's trying to be the best, and it was cool to be a part of that room. And just again, like you said, with the offense, like being in an RPO based offense, really fun to watch him do that. I felt comfortable in it. So obviously we did a lot of it at Notre Dame.
Right.
And then, with Gardner, like it was great. Got really, really close with him. Just how smart he is. He's very football savvy. He gets the ball out really, really fast. So I tried to take a little bit of both of their games. That's what I tried to do in that room and learn from them. They were all very welcoming. We had, we were joked around in meeting rooms. We had a good time. We all stayed late and watched film together. We did a lot of things together. So QB competitions daily, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It might even go down to the ping pong table. Like we were doing a lot of stuff together, really bonding, and it was just a special room. I really enjoyed being in that room with them.
So during the playoff run, your former teammate Julian Love made a little bit of waves talking about, I guess, Nick Sirianni. It's a compliment to the roster, right? To your point, like it was a really good roster, and you guys had a ton of talent. And I think he was, I don't know what maybe he just wanted to have a good time on like talk shows.
It's kind of funny because you don't
TV.
expect Julian to
right, exactly,
to strike up some controversy. But we all talked in like a group chat that we have with all the ND guys, and we're giving him a hard time. But I understand what he was trying to say. We have a crazy roster. There's no doubt, but Jalen Hurts is part of that. There's no question. And he's he's the best player on our offense. And that's how it's got to be with the quarterback. So I see what he was saying. Probably could have worded it a little bit different, but I already gave him a hard time for it. So.
Well, Sirianni is a different. He's very different from Brian Kelly. That's for sure. I mean, how did you click with that? Like, obviously, a different style and that sort of thing. And Brian Johnson was I believe your quarterback coach, who's now the offensive coordinator. And he was sort of connected to the open Notre Dame job. And we can talk about that in a little bit as well. But just. How did you click with them? Like what the coaching style, like did Brian Johnson, did he have a good kind of, was he an offset towards Nick Sirianni? Nick Sirianni, very fiery, right? As fiery as you can get on the sideline, right? And very demonstrative. I appreciated the fact that all the things that he was demonstrative about, whether it was a call or whether it was something going on like in the game or whatever, he was right. He just like he's just a fiery guy, and that's his personality.
Passionate,
right? Like how did you vibe off of that?
Yeah, I liked him a ton. I feel like we really gelled well together.
Yeah.
Both of those coaches, I feel like you kind of nailed it right there. Nick's obviously got a lot of passion for the game. He loves coaching. He's a smart coach. He's always working with us in the quarterback room. Just we're all using the same language. He's very transparent. We're running this play because this, and this is what we're looking for. Simple. This is what we want. If we don't have that, we're going here. Like he's very, he's just a smart coach. And then same thing with Brian. Same thing, but I would say a little bit more chill. So it kind of offsets a little bit. But it's awesome on game day to have your head coach be that fired up about something that he loves so much. He's fired up. He's just over on the sideline, running around, screaming and yelling. And if you look at what he's screaming and yelling about, like you said, most of the time he's right, and he's just passionate about it. So cool to have a coach that cares. I'd rather have a coach that cares a lot than not too much. You know what I mean?
Right. And you got to be winning. It comes across different if you're not winning games, but you guys did, so it's all good. How do you improve your own game now? So I'm thinking about just you now. Is how do you? You're not getting a ton of reps in practice, like scrimmage reps. I mean, and so you're not getting that, and you probably feel like I want to get an opportunity. I need an opportunity, but you haven't been getting the scrimmage reps to kind of, I guess, maximize it. For lack of a better way to put it, like for me, And I think a lot of athletes are like this. Like everything is about preparation. You want to go into an opportunity, a game, whatever, feeling you're as completely prepared as you can. And I know for you, there's film study and there's in your playbook and all those other things. But how do you prepare yourself for the, like, and we'll get into your first start when it seems to me like there was nothing you could really do to completely prepare yourself. So how, even now, like, how do you go about preparing yourself? So it's like, okay, when I get an opportunity, I'm ready to go, in scrimmages, and I'm making myself better and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, it's obviously different. I don't think many people understand, but very different from college and in the NFL. In college, the twos and the threes are getting reps during the day.
Right.
It's just different. And we're all professionals. We don't have all day to practice. The ones get the reps. You got to find the right balance for getting those guys reps without wearing them out during the week so they can feel, fresh for games. And twos don't take many reps. I will say, luckily in Philly, we have a very cool practice schedule where the twos do get some reps. But if you're a three, like I was last year,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking all the practice squad reps, or not all of them. I'm taking half of those and a few other reps throughout the week. But just staying ready, like understanding why we're doing stuff, really being engaged in the meetings. I would throw on my own with a few guys a couple times a week to keep my arm ready, because you never know if one guy goes down. Like last year, I had to be ready to be a play away for 2 of the weeks during the season. So it's more mental. You got to really stay ready and understand why we're doing things. Can't get lost. It's a long season of not doing, the actual team live reps. And then I would say like another part of that is really making everything, taking everything super serious and just really going for it in the preseason and in camp. When you do get those reps, they matter a ton.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Yeah.
Obviously those are like our base plays and everything's going to build every week. But if you
Mm-hmm.
understand like fundamentally why we're running certain things in camp and you're actually getting to run them, I think that'll help you a lot. So just trying to, it's just how the league goes.
Yeah.
It's not like it's unfair. It is what it is. Every 2 and 3 in the league's just dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. So when you do get your opportunity, that's when you want to feel as ready as you can. So then there's no looking back.
When you look at quarterbacks around the league who come in, as first round picks or, high draft picks or whoever, like Sam Darnold is an example where he was picked high. Zach Wilson's kind of going through it right now. I mean, the jury's still out on him, so we don't really know, but I'm just, the Jets are talking about bringing Aaron Rodgers, right? And that's going to put Zach Wilson in a bad spot. And so when you see guys like Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson, just as two examples, who were high draft picks but have struggled, what do you think the main reason is why guys come in wherever they're picked? Like, why do you think it is? Like, what differentiates the guys? Like, in contrast to Jalen, right? Where how is it that Jalen makes it and someone who maybe is as physically talented as him doesn't make it? Like, what's the differentiator there?
And I feel like there's a lot, and it's probably a pretty heated debate that you could get into with other guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one certain thing, but I just feel like at quarterback at the next level in the NFL, all of your mistakes are magnified. So you might be able to get away with stuff in college, and you could be a little bit late on this route, and the DB's not as good. But everyone in the NFL is super good.
Yeah.
Ones to threes to practice squad players. It doesn't matter. These guys were the best players on their college team. So it's just competitive. I think there's a next step mentally, obviously, with the playbook and every play having a check. In college, I've heard of offenses that are so simple, and I feel blessed that at Notre Dame we actually were able to do some stuff and take control and check out of things and flip plays certain directions, because every play in the NFL for the last 2 years that I've been in it, both systems I've been in, you're not running a dead play into a bad looking defense. If it doesn't look good, we're checking out of it. Any advantage we can get, we want to. So I don't know if there's one specific thing, especially with those guys. Like, also you learn on the fly, and Jalen killed it this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact reason, but I also wasn't there for the first 2 years. But when you watch his tape, it looks like his confidence is out the roof. I think he's finally had a coordinator for more than 1 year. Apparently, I think there was something like he had a new coordinator every year for like the last 5 years. There's all these things, opportunity, timing, coaching, everything goes into one basket. I don't think I can put one, one thing on why people don't succeed, but also hard work too. Like, how much do you love it? Are you there? The first in, last out thing. Are you doing that? Are you in there? Are you studying? Are you taking it to the next level? There's just a lot that goes into it. I can't pick one. Sorry.
No, it's good. I wanted to ask an NFL quarterback about that, right? Because
Yeah.
I just feel like it's so much of it comes down to knowing where to go with the ball, to simplify it. Like, if you know where the ball has to go on a snap to snap basis, that kind of leads to everything being right. Like, people talk about accuracy and stuff. I feel like accuracy improves when you know where the ball's got to go.
100%.
Because then you can set your feet and you're confident. It's like, oh, this is where it's got to be, and you go from there. And when you're a little confused, and like you said, making checks and that sort of thing. And I was going to bring this up later, but it was a nice little segue to it. And Notre Dame, people talk about the Notre Dame offense, specifically the Tommy Rees offense, is like it's a pro style offense, right? And I always wonder, like, what do people mean when they say that, right? Are they under center? Are they? Is it because of the route concepts? Is it you talking about making checks on every play? What is the the Tommy Rees offense, and that kind of Notre Dame is reportedly going to run the same offense with Jared Parker this year, similar concepts and that sort of thing, because I think they like the offense, right? It wasn't they didn't want Tommy Rees to leave. He left on his own. So tell me about the offense. What is Notre Dame doing that would prepare you for something, like the NFL, what you're doing with the Eagles?
Yeah. Well, first I'll tell you, I used to always ask Tommy Rees, every coordinator I have, I like to ask him, like, hey, what would you say this offense is?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to realize as I get older and keep playing football, it's hard to just say this is a pro style offense.
Yeah.
It's like, if you look back and watch all the film, maybe a base structure, like we were a pro style offense because we had such good players, like AKA tight ends, making it more of a pro style. But I used to always ask Tommy, what is it? He's like, it's pro style offense with variations. If it was just pro style, we would, half of our playbook would be thrown out. We've got we're running the RPO. We're doing, there's different layers to it. I don't think it's, maybe a long time ago, football might have been one way where it was pro style, but now it's when you're adding plays weekly, they're falling into different offensive trees, I would say. So I have asked Tommy that question, and he said pro style with variation. So I'll take that as the answer. But I would say what Tommy's offense was to me, the best thing was it was very, very obvious that the offense he was going to run was catered around his best players. And I think that's what the best coordinators do. So it was pro style because we had Cole Kmet, we had Brock Wright, we had Michael Mayer, the list goes on. And we were getting those guys heavily involved in the run game and in the pass game. And then it was like, oh, what else was our strong suit at Notre Dame when I was there? Our offensive line. They were unbelievable. So we could run pro style run plays, pass plays, play action. So it was super obvious to me when I was meeting with Tommy every day that we were running these plays to get the ball to our best players. And at Notre Dame, I would say we've had great players all over, but a big part of that was, those guys with their hand in the dirt, including the tight ends. So that's kind of where I feel like his offense really originated from. So excited to see what he does at Alabama as well.
Yeah,
I would agree, and he used to always tell me that the coordinators, their offense caters to the best players. So curious to see what he does now.
How much of a transition was it from Chip Long to Tommy Rees?
I think verbiage-wise, we changed some things. We tried to keep a lot similar. I mean, a lot of guys were coming back, but obviously, I feel like RPO-wise was very heavy with Coach Long. But we kept a lot of that stuff, and we did it. And Tommy just added in his I would say, like, drop back concepts, and things weren't, they were different, but we tried to keep stuff the same. And I know when Tommy came and put in his offense, he wanted everything. Obviously, you're coordinator. You want your offense to be yours, and I feel like he tried to really make everything make sense. Certain route concepts all had the same words that fit in the same tree, and it just stuff that really hits your brain the right way. That makes football easier to learn and easier to play when you don't have to think as much.
I want to move on to your kind of near Notre Dame career, but I do want to hear the story of how you came to start your first game with the Saints.
Yeah.
When I heard it, okay, I've heard this before, and many people haven't. So, and you can tell it kind of a rehash. But when I heard it, I got anxiety. I could not imagine having to go into that situation with those circumstances. And like you said before, like I'm no complaints. It is what it is. Everyone had to do it. But just if you could just go and tell us the story about how it
Yeah.
came to be that you started your first game.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, obviously it's been a dream of mine to start an NFL game.
Oh,
Let's
for
start with
sure.
that. So I was excited.
Yeah.
Not the way I wanted to start one, and I
Right.
plan on starting another one sometime, probably with different situations. But I mean, even with the whole COVID thing in college, and then like no one expected to play certain games the way that we did. So
Yeah.
it was just one of those weeks. Came into the week as the third string, like I was all year. Um, got a text that guys weren't feeling too good. Kept getting calls. One quarterback goes down and going to the facility, talking to the other quarterback in the parking lot. He says he's going home because he doesn't feel well. So then I started doing the math. I was like, well, I'm the only one left. So
Yeah.
it was a weird week because it was Christmas. I had my family
Yeah.
coming into town. We were going to be off on Christmas Saturday. Sunday would be the day before the game because Monday night was the game. Obviously fighting for a playoff spot. Like there was so many things going on. We were getting these texts, don't come into the facility. We're counting guys. We're currently at 5. Then we went to 8. Then we had 10. Then we had 12. And the word on the street, from what I believe, was at that point, if you had 25 guys out, like you have to forfeit.
Yeah.
And from what I know, we were at 23. So we were close. And it's just the way that it all went down. Like
Yeah.
you had to cancel practice. So you know, unfortunately wasn't able to get a full speed practice with any of the guys. We had one walkthrough outside with masks on, which was nice to be able to walk through a few things.
Yeah.
But, like you've all heard and everyone that's probably, tuned into the game, my first, live snap with the center was that pregame. My first, handoff to Alvin was pregame, and my first
Yeah.
throws to those starting receivers was pregame. So I knew what to do. I thought Pete Carmichael did a good job of meeting with me
Yeah.
a few times, and they sent me home with a Cowboy remote and my iPad so I could just study at home by myself. I couldn't meet with the coaches. We just didn't want to get anybody else sick. If I was
Right.
sick,
Yeah.
we
You
would have had to
couldn't have the game.
forfeit.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
So, and then, for me, I was like, well, I don't want to be sick. It's not the best opportunity, but it's a chance. So I was excited. Like you said, I mean, I obviously went out there and thought we could win. No matter what, I
Oh, for
was
sure.
convinced in my head that even after like a really shitty first half, what was the score? It was like, was it 10-3
Yeah,
or
I think
something?
so. I mean, it was right there. I mean, because
You know,
it was a tough situation for both teams, right? So
yeah,
it wasn't like everyone was clicking on all cylinders, and it almost sounds like it was so out of the ordinary. It's like it's almost, I don't want to say comforting. That's not the right word, but it's like it's disarming. Like
yeah. It was
yeah,
a
like it is
bizarre
what it
feeling.
is.
It definitely wasn't like that feeling of like this is regular Monday Night Football.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'd imagine it was
yeah,
kind of like, sheesh, let's see what happens tonight.
yeah.
But
Almost like a free roll
yeah,
if
but I
you've
tell
heard
you,
the
like
term.
in my brain, I was convinced. I was like, well, whatever. Yeah, I got no chance. I got no like other choice to.
Right, 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 right.
What am I going to do? Pout and hope the game to be over? I was like, let's just do this. I got Alvin Kamara. I got these guys. I got So we were obviously missing a ton of guys, but defense was playing good. It was 10-3 at half, I think. It just didn't go our way. But honestly, awesome experience. I learned so like as tough as that night was for me, because I'm like, that's really my only thing right now to look back on in the NFL of playing in a game, not counting the preseason.
Yeah,
Like that's not what I want to look back on. I want another shot. That's more. I just want another shot, fair or not. I just want another chance. But um, I was convinced. I was like, hey, we might as well just go out there and do what we can do. We got no other choice. Let's try to win and get into the playoffs. It didn't happen, and everything it felt like the team was back to normal the following week with guys coming back, and it is what it is. But I learned so much just by playing that 1 week than I did, kind of watching, for the last season, 2 seasons. When you play, like you learn a lot more, and it felt good to go out there and complete some passes, throw for some yards, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I wanted to be out there. Uh, I hope to get another shot. Obviously, different circumstances, but again, I will say this forever. Like I was trying to have a good time out there. It
Yeah.
wasn't going. I was trying to be a leader. I was trying to do everything I did at Notre Dame, and just kind of the way it worked. So I can't really. It happened. So
Yeah. More jitters. That first start for the Saints, or your first start at North Carolina for Notre Dame in 2017
more jitters for the Saints one. Yeah,
for the Saints one.
just because at Notre Dame, I mean, like you said, like us athletes, I feel like we're most confident because we know the work that we've put in. We know we're
Yeah.
prepared. Um, I felt prepared mentally, just I didn't have anything to fall back on because I've never done it with these guys.
Yeah.
So I knew the plays, just haven't got to rep them with those guys. In college, I was ready. That North Carolina game, I felt I was ready to go. So
Mhm.
it is what it is. And like I said, being a 2 in the league, it's different. You got to find your way to get those reps. So that's been a big part of kind of my daily routine when I'm back. If I'm not getting reps, I'm going to keep some of these guys and we're going to stay after and we're going to do them. So when I do get that chance, I'll feel, ready to go.
I'm wondering how. Now we're kind of switching over to your Notre Dame career. I wonder how you kind of reacted to, I guess, post Wake Forest, the week of, going into your first home game against Stanford. Because, I think, prior to the Wake Forest game in 2018, when you were named the starter, I think just to the national college football world, fairly anonymous, right? Like, I mean, you'd had the bowl game in 2017 and that was great. But it was like kind of the season ended. There were no
Mm-hmm.
more games after that, so it was like it was like one of those top Sports Center plays, and then on to the off season, right? And people aren't talking about Ian Book as much. People who aren't Notre Dame fans, I should say. And then you get named the starter for Wake Forest. You go out there, 5 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 2 passing, right? You guys put up 50 plus on Sam Hartman, which is pretty ironic.
Right.
And then you go into your first home start against Stanford, who at the time was top 10. You guys hadn't beaten since 2014. So you arrived at Notre Dame 2016. You guys lost to Stanford. 17 lost to Stanford. You go into 2018. Stanford is a top 10 team, and it's a night game, right?
Mm.
And now Ian Book is a national name now, right? That week, did your whole world just kind of change? Like, people are talking about,
Yeah.
like, did you feel that? Like, did you have like a sense of like, yeah, I'm very much a part of the college football landscape now?
I mean, I think naturally I felt it, but I definitely did my best to stay off of all platforms. That's kind of what I did my whole career. I tried to stay away from hearing any of that noise.
Yeah, yeah,
It definitely helps. At Notre Dame, it's hard to not naturally hear everything. It's a big football school and it's a national brand, so that's why we were there, and that's why you go to Notre Dame. But I think that Wake Forest game was pretty cool, obviously, to do what we did, gain some more confidence for myself, and then I think that was kind of like, oh, maybe it was a fluke because it was Wake Forest. You know, here comes Stanford. Were they top 5? Were they
they
top
were
10?
7. I think it was
They were
6
7.
versus 7 or 7 versus 8, something like
Yeah,
that.
so huge game, night game rivalry.
Right.
One of my favorite games, to this day. So things definitely shifted, but I think it just to me it was like, all right, this is, you know, I would say it's like this is my opportunity again. I'm gonna do everything I can to not let anyone take this from me. So that was kind of like this role that I got on. Like, maybe they thought the bowl game was a fluke. Maybe they thought Wake Forest was a fluke. I'm not gonna let them think that Stanford was a fluke. It's kind of how I was thinking of it.
You have that's kind of a theme for you, right? Like that, like this is my opportunity. I have to get it, right? And I think, does that stem from, you were not you were not a, top 100 recruit, right? You were recruited. You originally committed to Washington State to play in the air raid under the late
Yeah.
Mike Leach, who just recently passed away. So you're going to be an air raid quarterback. Ended up at Notre Dame, and you showed up in 2016. Deshaun Kaiser and Malik Zaire are going through a quarterback battle. your teammate and your friend Brandon Wimbush, who was a top 100 quarterback. Like I think he was a redshirt freshman at this point, right? So he was he was redshirting in 2016, and he was kind of assumed I'm gonna be the starter in 2017.
For sure.
I mean, so that's kind
went
of a
from
theme for
being
you.
fourth, fourth string quarterback to, two guys being gone that were battling for a position, Deshaun and Malik, the following year. It's like, well, now you're the backup, you're a play away. So I was, again, just staying ready. The season can be long when you're not doing much, but it's like you got to have that end goal, that it's going to come sometime. And you don't want that opportunity. You don't get many of them, and you don't want that opportunity to be, something that you always regret and look back on. So it's the same in the league, and now it's just even, now the opportunities are even less. So just trying to be ready. It's always been my thing. I always feel like, a lot of people say that they're the underdog, and I've always feel like, I feel like at Notre Dame, I felt like I was a little bit, just enough to motivate myself, not trying to, say, I've always felt like there's a chip on my shoulder, especially at Notre Dame, 3-star. Notre Dame normally starts, 5 stars, so that's just kind of how I've carried myself. But, the stars didn't mean anything too. I've always felt like that stuff is out of control.
Well, once you're at Notre Dame, I mean, you're a Notre Dame football player, right? Like,
now it's like you came here for a reason. So have fun with it. That's also something you probably heard in every interview I ever have. Like, I'm trying to have fun. That's why I play this game.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit. So you obviously win that game, 38-17. I think you threw another 4 touchdowns, 278 passing. Good job by you on that. And
Appreciate
so you guys move on. You're on the road at Northwestern. First drive of the game, I believe it was a scramble play. I don't know that it was a called run, but you scramble, you get hit in the side. What happens then?
Yeah, it's pretty weird now being at Notre Dame. The truth can come out for everything.
Yeah.
I think it was it the second drive, first or second drive?
I think it was the first drive. I might be wrong, but it very early in the game. That's for sure.
I'm running. I'm wearing a rib protector, the Evo Shield. Got it on. There's a little gap between your backplate pad and your Evo Shield. It's like that big is how small the gap is.
Yeah.
And I go down, and the guy who was tackling me, his knee hit me right in the gap. Knocked the wind out of me. I knew I've never had the wind knocked out of me like that before. I couldn't even breathe. Sharp pain. I was like, man, this is definitely different. And then if you remember, it was 4th and 1, and they were telling everybody to stay on the field. And if you watch the video, I'm hunched over. I can barely get a breath. Tony Jones Jr. is asking me if I'm all right. I'm telling him, yes, I'm fine, kind of. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, stay out. It's 4th and 1. So I'm thinking, that's fine. We'll run the ball. Well, they called double slant. So I go to throw, and I throw it, and I'm like, oh, what is this? So I go off to the sideline. I'm just like, okay, I can barely get a breath, but my ribs are killing me. I feel like something. I never once I think I broke my ribs. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, the game goes on, and I'm really trying to not get hit again. I didn't tell anybody on the sideline I was hurt. I'm pretty sure they felt around. They couldn't obviously find broken ribs, on the sideline with all my pads on. But I remember, running a few more times in that game before I get tackled, I'd get down on the ground because I didn't want to get hit there again and have to not, come out of the game and not be able to play.
Right.
I remember getting on the phone one time. This will be funny because Tommy Rees was screaming at me on the phone. We had a good relationship, but he was like, why are you? He's like, you normally don't, drop down to the ground. What are you doing? You're running like a baby. Let's just say he said it like that.
Yeah. A baby.
And I still didn't say anything. I'm like, all right. He doesn't know that I, have hurt ribs, whatever.
Right.
So at halftime in Northwestern, they're known for like the smallest locker room ever.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but it's so small. So we all cram in there, and I go to the bathroom to go take a piss, and I fill the toilet with blood, just all red. So the whole toilet was
at halftime.
Yeah. So funny part here is I still didn't want to tell the trainers because I thought it was a close game at half. I thought
Yeah.
if I tell
Was
them,
it 14-7? I think it was something like that.
yeah, I'm like, if I tell them, they'll probably pull me out. So I went to the smartest guy on the team in the quarterback room. His name's Nolan Henry,
Okay.
and he was doing pre-med. So I was like, maybe he knows what's going on. So I asked him to come look at the toilet. I'm like, dude, you gotta check this out. And he was just staring at the toilet, and I'm like, so you don't know? And he's like, he like didn't say anything. I was like, all right, no hope there.
Is
So
this bad?
yeah, because I'm like, I'm hurting and I peeing blood. Like it
Yeah.
looked like, yeah, it looked like cranberry juice. It was
Oh,
like
okay.
straight red.
Yeah.
So I don't say anything. I go play the rest of the game. Was able to. I mean, we had an awesome drive. Was able to pull it on the last play and run into the
Yeah.
end zone. Just a awesome, crazy game. But at the end of the game, that's the one game that we took a bus to because it's close to Notre Dame. Mind you, it's still a 2-hour bus drive. So with ribs, they don't want to give you any medicine because they don't know if you have internal bleeding in your liver or kidney or whatever you have it. So, I had to get back on that bus, and that was one of the longest, most brutal bus rides ever, hitting all these bumps with, what I had. I had a, fractured ribs, and I had a bruised kidney. That's what I ended up having. So, um, that bus ride was terrible. No medicine, nothing.
Yeah.
On the bus ride back, okay, I got something. Like this is not normal. Like every bump we hit, I'm like excruciating. I actually ended up standing in the back of the bus with Sam Mustafer and just telling him like, bro, I got to stand for this bus ride.
Yeah.
We get back, then we obviously go through all the tests, and we end up getting an X-ray, and I end up having cracked ribs and then internal bleeding. So I had a bruised kidney. So basically, it hit me so hard, it hit ribs, hit the kidney, I guess, and bruised them, and it ended up bleeding. So had to miss that following week
Yeah.
against
Florida
Florida
State.
State for the senior night. Pretty bummed about that, but they basically told me like if you take a week off, your kidneys will heal. Your ribs will bother you probably for the rest of the season, but the it's not worth getting hit again in the kidneys and having like an Andrew Luck type of situation, where
Right.
he had an
Yeah. Yeah.
actual full, tear in his kidney or whatever he had. So had to take that week off. But,
Had to take the week off. Yeah, and I didn't tell anybody. So just for people to remember, like you didn't just run the ball in for a touchdown at the end of the game there. You also hit Michael Young on like a 50-yard pass.
Oh, yeah.
And so you think about, so if anyone, you probably find the game on the internet, you go watch that, and you're thinking, okay, Ian Book is peeing blood at halftime and not telling anybody. That's something, man. I didn't know all that. I thought that part of it was kind of afterwards, like maybe Monday, Tuesday, right? And it's like, okay, Ian Book's not going to play. I didn't know it was actually during the game. That's something. That's football.
Yeah. It is, and that's the stuff that people don't know, and that's the stuff that you got to be okay with people not knowing. It's kind of a cool,
right?
Like for me, that'll always be like a story that I have with my guy. All the guys on the team knew, but it's like we try to keep our information, in house.
Yeah.
We always talk about keeping stuff in the locker room, and nobody needs to know that until now when you graduate and you can hop on podcasts and tell the real version. So it was crazy. I peed blood all that whole week. I felt like it wasn't going to go away, and it finally did. And I guess there's like, even when I would pee like clear and thought I was good, apparently you can test that and find that there's still blood, like blood cells in there that are still like showing that you're bleeding. So
yeah,
it was a crazy process. I was really just trying to, there's not much you can do for broken ribs either. So for the next,
and plus like it's your core, right? And you're throwing the ball, and that's got to hurt every single time.
What was the following game? I think it was the pinstripe game in New York.
No, it was that's right. It was.
So
you're right. It was
New
Syracuse.
York.
You go up to New York. Yeah.
So you go up to New York, and we just had this plan that, I'm going to shoot these ribs up, hopefully numb them for a couple games or a couple quarters.
Yeah.
And try to get through it. But yeah, those ribs bugged me for a while. So it was crazy. Yeah.
Well, then you go to USC and like you had a couple like huge third down conversions where you're like running over defenders.
Just trying to run for my life to not get hit in the ribs again. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, that must have been just very bad, like uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah, very uncomfortable. Yeah.
So I guess, you know, you have, I mean, that's the resilience there, the toughness there. I mean, you've had several moments, you know, and I wrote something for an article when I used to write as a blogger for uhnd.com. I wrote how you were a fighter. It's just, it's, you have an ability to fight back in situations, right? And I think about the Virginia Tech game in 2019, where you guys had just lost to Michigan, right? In a bad way, right?
This game?
Yeah, it's just the crowd game. I mean, honestly, like, you're a legend for that in my mind. I really appreciated it. Because I remember that week and I remember what it was like. And I do wonder for you, right? Because I think, you know, look at Notre Dame, it comes from the you can't lose games at Notre Dame, right? And if you're not winning a national title, then they want to bring in someone else who will, right? And so you lost your second game of the year at Michigan the week before, and you go against Virginia Tech. You know, you're about to go up 14. You're about to go up, I think, 21-7, you know, like a little bit right before the half. Jafar fumbles on the one, gets returned for touchdown. Instead of being up 14, it's tied. And then you know, you have a 2-minute drive where it's like, if we don't score here, we're gonna lose 2 games in a row and we're gonna be 6-3 or whatever it is. And like, did you feel like in that moment, and you know, maybe you didn't because you're in the heat of the game and you're just like, how are we gonna win this game? But if was there anything in your mind that, like, if this doesn't work out, they're gonna try to bring in Phil. They're gonna try to bring in the backup, who was a highly rated recruit, right?
Yeah.
Was that in your mind? Did you have that in there?
I don't think I ever thought about that. You know, Phil's a great player. Nothing to do with him. I'm just saying, I think that's probably where you don't want your mind to ever go as a quarterback.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, it's definitely realistic. I mean, you don't want to lose 2. We played terrible against Michigan up there in the rain. It was terrible. And like we talked about earlier, talk about hearing the noise. We sure heard the noise for a full week, you know, and well, we'll bounce back with Virginia Tech or whatever. And it's a close game. You know, football's hard. Week in and week out, you got to win every matchup. You know, and I didn't do this to tell the ND fans to just like be quiet. I was just saying, like, everyone needs to chill out. You know, like, it's okay. We know we lost, just like you guys know we lost, and we're fighting every week to win. And there was no doubt that Virginia Tech. That was one of the games where I felt like there was not a doubt we were winning. It wasn't going our way. It's still a close game. And then we had an awesome drive. You know, we practiced the 2-minute drive all the time for those reasons. Hit Claypool on a big in cut on the left.
Yeah.
You know,
Fourth down.
He catches it and gets the first down and kind of slides or whatever. And then we get closer and coach calls a play where it could be a pass or it could be a quarterback run. And they gave us a look where I was going to be able to do the quarterback run, and perfect, awesome block by the Javon McKinley over there. And it just worked out. And I think it was like, it wasn't a pretty win, but not every win's going to be a pretty win. It's about winning. And that's what we do. It's about fighting every single week and winning. And that's what we did. So that's what this was. So don't want anyone to get mad at me, but it was just like, hey,
it's fine. Honestly, people are unreasonable.
We need y'all to chill out.
People are unreasonable, man. It's totally fine. And I thought it was cool, and it's all good. I mean, look, you're in. Plus, I think during games, when you're in the heat of it, the things you do during games, it's, you know, it's just,
there's a lot of emotion.
It's like trash talk, right? Like some guys who, it's like you get in a game and you're trash talking, and it's like, I don't trash talk normally, but I will in this situation because I'm fired up. I'm in the game. Yeah. But where does your resiliency, where does that resiliency and mental toughness come from, right? Because look, in 2020, you know, you have to, you're rooming by yourself. You can't go outside. You know, and especially when, you know, Drew Pine was a true freshman at that point. There's no one really behind you, right? And Brendan Clark was also there, but he had a hurt knee, so he had a lot of physical problems. There's no one behind you. If you get COVID during 2020, that's a playoff team that does that. Notre Dame's not going to the playoffs. If you get COVID, you got to sit there by yourself. The discipline there, the mental toughness there, like, where does that come from? Where was that instilled in you? Was it your dad? Was it your mom?
Yeah.
You know, where did that come from?
I would say probably growing up just with, you know, my parents and always talking about mental toughness just because of kind of my dad's career and my mom's career. Mom was a paramedic. Dad was in the Army, in the law enforcement.
Yeah.
Was on the SWAT team. I mean, he's been in some high pressure situations, more than we face in football. It's our life or death. So, for me, I was just growing up and having an older brother who's in the Army now. I think maybe it's an Army background thing, but really it's like
Mm-hmm.
we play football because it's a game and we love it. And at the same time, it's like there's so much emotion in it, and it's like no matter what, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna give up. You might be a
Yeah.
better football player than me or something and make a better play here or there, but that was kind of always my mentality is like be tough for my guys. Like when I get smacked or break ribs, like just get up if you can, keep going, show those guys that like you're not gonna quit on them. It's kind of where it is. That's kind of how I'm always thinking when I'm out there. Like
Yeah.
I want these guys to know that like they're working hard for me because they're protecting me every play. I want them to know I'm not going to fold or throw in the towel early.
Well, that attitude parlayed itself to the most wins in the history of a Notre Dame starting quarterback. So I don't know. How do you process that? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means a lot. It's a true honor for sure. I would
Mm-hmm.
say we had some awesome players, great coaching. Like there's so much that goes into it, but it is an
Mm-hmm.
awesome title. I love it. I hope one day someone breaks it, because I'm always rooting for Notre Dame, but it is a cool honor. Just the seasons that we had back to back, was pretty cool that we were able to have everybody buy in. That was the biggest thing, just to have everybody buy in and win that many games. And I think Notre Dame's on the rise. I feel like it was a culture thing. Guys bought in with Coach Bayless. Like I give him
Yeah.
credit, to the day I die. And then just the coaches, like everyone just bought in and was like, I don't know what it's like now. I don't know what it was like before me, but when I was there, like I feel like it was special. We had a special team.
Speaking of great coaches, Ian, uh, November 2021, around Thanksgiving time. Where are you when it kind of hits the ticker that Brian Kelly's looking at LSU, going to go coach LSU? What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know where. I mean, November of 21,
You were playing,
I must
right?
have
So
been,
you're in
yeah, I was
season.
playing. I'm in season. I feel like I don't know exactly what I was doing, but I'll tell you when I heard the news, um, I don't know if I really wasn't like shocked. Like I was
Ah,
like, I either thought personally, I thought he was going to retire, um, or I thought he might stay at Notre Dame another season, but I didn't know he'd go to LSU. But so I guess you would think I would be shocked. But then when I heard it, I was like, Coach Kelly's done this in his career where wherever he goes, he wins. You got to give him that credit.
yeah,
And it's like you get this opportunity to go to LSU, like it's going to be hard to say no to that. So I respect him for what he does. I respect him for giving me my opportunity. Um, but I don't know why. I just didn't have like a shocked feeling. But I thought he was going to stay at Notre Dame or retire, and I still wasn't shocked. I was just kind of like, it kind of works. It kind of works out. That's kind of how I felt a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I mean, you are a big part of his success at Notre Dame, right? I mean, that post 2016, 2017, and then you. I mean, I expected you to say like he gave you his shot or your shot, and that's
Yeah,
true. But also, like, I mean, you paid it off. I mean, a lot of what I mean, he went to the playoffs twice. You were a starting quarterback both times. Won a lot of games, right? The most games that Notre Dame's ever won.
yeah.
As a starting quarterback. So, so
Yeah,
you had a
we
lot
worked
in
well
that.
together. He helped me. I help him.
Yeah,
It's a good relationship.
it was a good little relationship. What a crazy week that was. I mean, your friend Nick Asaf was.
Oh
I
man,
don't know how involved with this you were, but I mean, in terms of just like what the online situation
I
was.
I
But
did some of those talks or whatever, but
yeah, I mean, he
he
was on
became
it.
like a ESPN reporter. I was
Yeah, it's
like,
like
go for it.
3,000 people in the Twitter space and current players like Kyle Hamilton's
Yeah,
coming on, and it's like
he's good at that stuff. I'll tell you. So
he's
it's a
breaking
good. I
news.
wasn't
Yeah.
surprised at all. Yeah,
Did you feel the same about Tommy Rees when he went to Alabama? Was that kind of a similar feeling you had there?
yeah. I mean, I'm really close with Tommy. I'd probably talk to
Yeah.
Tommy once every 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
He didn't give me any like inside info that you guys didn't have, but Tommy is like a player in the NFL. he's trying to move up the ranks like every other coach, you know. So I understand the game, I understand the coaching profession, and he feels like this could be a move for him, you know, a step, you know, closer to whatever he wants to do. And that's obviously to be a head coach somewhere, college, NFL, whatever it may be. So he feels like this. He's betting on himself. I'm happy for him. Super happy and proud of everything he did for Notre Dame. I don't understand why people ever get mad at, he's leaving. He feels like he's, you know, done so much for this university, and this is another step in his career. So can't stay forever.
Yeah, I mean, people, you know, if you're, you know how it is. If you haven't won, if you're perceived to have not, you know, you didn't win a title, therefore you should stay until you do, right? And that's just kind of how people feel about it. I'm kind of bummed personally, just because I felt like this offense this year
could be
really good, and so I kind of wish he had seen that through. But I mean, that's me, right? He can do what he wants. No one offered me a job at Alabama, so it's easy for me to say. What do you? I guess what do you? You know, you mentioned before, you kind of told a story about Tommy and, you know, tough coaching and that sort of thing. How do you take that, right? I mean, is that and does that come from your, you know, your background too, with your parents, right? Like, does that,
I mean,
you know, did they get on you? I mean, because for me, in my, you know, my generation, I got that a lot. Like the stuff with Drew Pine and Tommy Rees, that's like nothing.
Yeah, you
like
don't see it as much.
I get
anymore,
it all the time.
I feel like,
yeah,
but I like it. You want to play if you have a true relationship with that coach, which you should. I think that's always probably the healthiest. And they're screaming at you. I mean, it's like, well, you know, after practice, we're friends again. Like, it's not personal, and he just wants me to be the best because he knows I can be. Then what it is, what it is. Like, he's fired up because he cares. I'd rather have that than someone that doesn't talk at all. So to me, I was like, I was getting pretty used to it. Like, it's cool. He told me, you know, like, you can be really good, you know, so I'm gonna be on you. That's my job. And I'm like, it is his job. So I liked it. It kind of got me fired up, got me pissed off a lot, where I was like, screw that. You know, I'm gonna go do it then and get him to be quiet.
Yeah.
So I like it. You know, I can get, you know, if you're a fan and you see the whatever NBC they put Tommy on there last year for screaming. It doesn't look great, but people don't know that that's been happening forever. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And kind of one last thing before we wrap up here, I did want to talk to you about kind of Notre Dame was in the news today. I don't know if you saw that Jack Swarbrick and Father Jenkins, they wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times about NIL and stuff. And I feel like you must be, I don't want to say bitter, just kind of like NIL comes about the year after you leave. Like I feel like you would have done really well in that NIL space as a Notre Dame quarterback. It's just my hunch. What do you, I guess, and I mean, obviously, you know, you're not involved in college football anymore, but I wonder some about, because Notre Dame is pretty famously, like they're not going to do this inducement stuff. They're not going to offer like a high school player, you know, millions of dollars. You're getting involved with collective that offers a high school player millions of dollars to come play for the university. And a lot of people within, you know, a lot of Notre Dame fans, right? Because Notre Dame had a lot of high profile recruits last year, 5-star players who were committed to the university and then opted to go somewhere else. Right. Kind of subtext is they took NIL deals with other places. And so if you were a player on the team, let's say, you know, Ian Book 2020 and NIL is a thing and Notre Dame's after a 5-star quarterback, and not necessarily someone that's going to replace you, right? Because in 2020, you're fairly pretty well established, right? You don't feel like someone's going to come in and take your job. But if it's like, hey, you know, the rumors are this guy's getting offered $1 million and now he's coming to Notre Dame. Like, would you have some questions about that? Do you think that would be a problem in the Notre Dame locker room? Like, would guys have a problem with that? Would they be going to the coaches and be like, hey, what's going on here?
Man, I don't know. I've thought about NIL a lot. Like you said, I missed it by a year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't even imagine it just because it's so foreign to me, obviously
Mm-hmm.
missing it, but I don't know if maybe some guys would be bitter. Some guys would be like, I don't care. And then some guys would probably be like, good for him. It's going to be split regardless. I don't know the right way to handle NIL. I've thought about it a ton. Um, I don't know if there is a right way of how to do it. And I think it's going to take time. It's obviously in the early stages. Um, but I think me personally, like after, being on this with you for an hour, you would probably realize that my reaction would be like, you know, it is what it is. And like at the end of the day, we're going to go in the field. We're both going to do the same thing. And if he's better than me at it, then he should be the starter. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
The best guy plays. So, um, you know, I think it would motivate me. It'd be like, well, I'm gonna go out there and he got the money, but I want to be the starter this year. So I don't know if there's a right way to do it. I think about it a ton, whether it's jersey sales, but if we were in college, if I was in college again and we were doing it, I think it'd be, cool. Fine. There's definitely cool ways to do NIL. So that'd be fun. I would be trying to get involved in those.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at you can just look at like Sam Hartman, for example, like his IG, he's doing well for himself in that space. I think he would have done really well. Do you like just, I guess, generally, would you like to see Notre Dame get into like maybe not like the Texas A&M Miamis of the world, but like
We should do something, though.
let's not lose players to NIL deals. Like where do you stand on that?
If you think that there is like a middle ground between like being Notre Dame and staying with our tradition and our values and still doing NIL, and we find that, I'm all good for it. But part of, I go both ways. Like I want these guys to get paid,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time, it's like I don't want Notre Dame to just like stop being what Notre Dame's always been about. We're smart enough at Notre Dame. Let's try to figure out something. I bet you there's stuff in the works right now we don't even know about, but let's figure out a way that, as close as we can, let's find that middle ground. Like Notre Dame's a special place with special people. And I feel like there's a way that we can, you know, find a way to pay these guys, but also get good people to the program. The same thing that we always preach, same thing that Swarbrick preaches. And then will that be enough to get us to the college playoff and win when we get there? That's the loaded question. I don't have the answer, but I think eventually, yes, I think we could, find a right way to do it and still get, really great recruits that want to come to Notre Dame, because it's Notre Dame.
How hard is it when you're, I guess, bringing in players? I mean, what is the biggest hang up that you hear with, when recruits will come in? Like, what do they say?
I guess I don't know now because of NIL. It could be whole different reasons, but
Yeah.
I mean, when I was there, a lot of people didn't want to go to South Bend because it was freezing, or school was too hard. Those were two of the reasons I heard a ton, but I bet you those reasons are completely different now with NIL.
Yeah. And one last thing before I let you go here, what's your opinion on Marcus Freeman, the Freeman era? I obviously he was a year after you, but what's your opinion there? You've been around a little bit.
Yeah, I've been around him a few times, and to be honest, he gained my respect when I was, about to start my first game against the Dolphins. I got a text from a number that I didn't have that said, "This is Coach Freeman. Go out there and kill tonight. Notre Dame is,
Wow.
Notre Dame is proud." So I was like, I like this guy. And then I, got to meet him a few times. And from what I heard, there's a good buzz on campus and people are excited about what he's doing there. So I'm excited for him. He's been great to me, and I hope they have a really great season.
Well, that's great, man. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much again for coming on the show. I'm going to let you go. What do you got? What do you got coming up? You got OTAs, I assume, pretty soon after the draft or before the draft, or when does that all get ramped up?
Yeah,
again?
I'll be down here training in Newport for a little bit, and then I'll be heading to maybe the spring game. Not quite sure yet. And then from the spring game, if I go, I'll go straight down to Philly for OTAs end of April. So
all right, well,
we'll see.
Good luck with that. Congratulations on a great career. Thanks again for coming on. This was awesome. I had a really good time, and we're gonna be rooting for you, man. Sticking with the Eagles.
Appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right, man.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Have a good one.
All right. You too.